What's going on, everybody? It's Rick. The worms are doing a great job. You can see this bag is just about completely eaten. There's a couple little pieces there, but nothing much. Okay, let's go ahead and see if there's anything left from that last feeding, which there probably isn't, but yep, nothing left. I normally do around 2 weeks between feedings for my different bins. I am noticing a bunch of moisture on the side here, so I will kind of wipe that down back into the bin. And I'm using this fresh bedding to wipe it down. Cool. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to go ahead, mix everything up right now, and then probably add a little bit more bedding. Okay. Man, these worms are doing a great job. The only thing that's left, these are some strings from some comfrey. Yeah. So I think today I'm going to go for a different style feeding. Patrick showed with his son's bin doing a diagonal feeding, so I think that's what I'm going to try for these guys today. I have some fresh bedding, and as I kind of told you before, I like using that bedding to help clean off these gloves. It makes it easier when I'm going for food scraps, but it also helps to get a little bit of castings on the fresh bedding. Much better. I do have some ground coffee from the K-Cups. So we just open up the K-Cups and store it in a little Rubbermaid container. So I still have some watermelon from the summer. I did go ahead and cook some pumpkin seeds from like a medium-sized pumpkin, and I sliced and chopped up all the pumpkin and have that in the freezer, so I'll have another food source for the worms. I was going to say, to be honest with you, I can't remember what this is. It kind of looks, I'm thinking it was with my brassicas, like my broccoli, that I chopped up some leaves. But I really can't remember. It's been in the freezer for a little while. Haha, but here is some actual broccoli. Okay, I think that's going to be a pretty nice size feeding for them. On top of the feeding, I like to add my ground up eggshell. It's a good grit source for the worms. And as the worms squirm around, they take those little fine particles of the eggshell, and that actually helps to digest their food. They have a crop and a gizzard, so grit is something that the worms like. You do not need to add it every single feeding. However, I have a bunch of eggs that we go through, so for me it's easier just to do it this way, and then I even take it out and sprinkle it over some of my garden beds and in my compost pile. But this is a good way because pretty much these castings end up going out into my garden anyway, so I know that the garden's getting some extra amendments and nutrients from the ground up eggshells. So after I add the food, I always like to cover up the food scraps because I've got flying insects a couple different times. So I find if I freeze the food and then cover up the food scraps with the castings and some of their bedding, that it does a much better job. And seeing how I have two big pockets right here, I'm going to go get some more bedding for them. And just because I got it out still, I'll sprinkle a little bit of the coffee on top. It'll be neat to see. Sometimes the coffee ends up kind of molding when it just sits and it kind of dries out some. So we'll see what happens for the next check-in. And then another thing that I like to add is a little worm chow. This is pulverized oats, expired pulverized oats, flour, cornmeal, and a little bit of the pulverized eggshell. So if you've seen the container before to now, maybe 1.5 ounces, 2 ounces at the most. I try not to go too crazy feeding them the worm chow, because with the high carbohydrates, it can kind of affect the worms. It can lead to that protein poisoning, so you just have to be careful. I did another bin where I would come in and feed a little bit of the worm chow every few days, because I stopped feeding it regular food because I introduced slugs from outside, and that kind of stunk. And it took many months before the slugs kind of died off. So you just have to be careful. A, if you're bringing in material from the outside, and then B, exactly what you're feeding the worms. You definitely don't want to go overboard feeding too much of one thing if you can help it. So the worms really seem to enjoy that bag that I put in there. So I'm going to put a piece of this corrugated cardboard, and we'll see what happens if we get some worms kind of in the layers on that next check-in. So a couple things. Once again, thank you all for the new subscribers. Very good growth right now. I'm liking it. I've been getting some good questions, trying to answer them, whether doing a video or right through the comments. The Master Gardener presentation that I have going on, we do have a title for it now. It's called Vermiculture, Composting with Worms. Let me know what you think about that down in the comments below. If you guys have any questions, make sure you drop them down in the comments. Thanks for coming along, checking out the video. Everybody have a great day.